Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child in Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army brat, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace of Military Child in Life. Today, I'm here with Marina, who was an Army spouse. So, Marina, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good. Thank you for having me on the podcast. This is such a cool experience, and I'm just grateful to be on it in general.
Yay. I'm so excited to have you. Tell the listeners what it's like or what it was like for you being an Army spouse.
So it was very, very different because I didn't grow up with any knowledge of being part of like the military community. It was a completely different change for me. So I went from just living in the same city my whole life to marrying this guy and then moving all the way across the country, not knowing anyone and just having to pretty much refigure everything out. But it was really cool and it was nice to meet everyone, and I was actually surprised like how quickly I like made friends and adjusted, and I don't know, it was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah. And that community aspect of other spouses and families and kids and other service members, that's really what makes the military life what it is.
Yeah, that definitely helped. If that wasn't an aspect at all, I don't think we would have been there as long. It would have been much, much harder because everything was the community there, the people I could reach out to, the friends I made. It made it so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And, picking up and moving from literally one end of the country to the complete other end of the country is not easy. And, most people never do that in their life.
Yeah, I definitely never would have if I didn't end up doing it because he was in the military. Because my idea growing up in Florida, every vacation was just find another beach that I've never been to. I had no plans on moving outside of Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah, we picked up and moved all the way across the country to Alaska, and I had one hoodie, had a wardrobe, so I had to get a whole new set of wardrobes.
Yeah. And that's like, for so many military families, it's like you just have a collection of different wardrobes for every single season because you never know where you're going to end up next.
Right. That's the crazy part to me is that you don't know until it's like so close to when you actually have to move anyways. So the idea that you just are like, all right, we're moving somewhere completely different now, and you just kind of got to like readjust and figure it out is insane to me.
Yeah. And Alaska and Florida, you can't get more opposite than that.
Yeah, that took a little bit of an adjustment for sure because it was different about it.
Yeah.
It was a cool experience.
Yeah. What kind of things did you get to do in Alaska?
So we did a ton of hiking. It took us a while to figure out what we wanted to do when we were there. Everyone said that it was more of the darkness in the winters and it was like the cold that was hard to adjust to.
Oh, I bet.
But like instantly the people we met there, they were just like, yeah, find your thing that you like to do and it'll make it so much easier. And so we got into hiking a lot. We did a lot of like tubing in the winter, and then we took our dogs outside like everywhere. So those were kind of like our main things. And then we just like go out with friends that we met and things like that.
Yeah. Because you can't like Florida, it's like you said, everyone thinks Florida and the beach and, Disney World and Universal and those like just Florida things, because that's really all that's here. But then when you go somewhere else, it's like, oh, there's so much more to do in the world than just go to the beach or go to Disney or, walk around with flat land.
Right, yeah, it was literally a complete different situation, and like nothing I was used to was up there. But we did a ton of hiking, which was fun. We saw moose everywhere. We lived on base, and there would be like moose in our front yard or crossing the road, which was really cool for me to see. We saw aurora borealis in our front yard.
Oh my
Really
gosh.
pretty. And like a reindeer farm that's like 30 minutes away from us. I think we went there like 10 times because I love visiting it so much.
Yeah. No, when I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and like going back up there now after living in Florida for a decade, it's like, oh, there's deer that just, roam all over the place. Or going to Maine, and we go there quite often. And, driving around here, it's like, okay, well, I have to watch for deer now. Like I can't, when you drive around here, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about really anything except
Right,
the other drivers. And, that's scary enough. But,
right, yeah.
it's like
Totally.
you don't have to worry about other animals here. And it's like, oh no. When you go other places, you can worry about moose walking around.
Right, yeah, and it's the craziest thing, but yeah, like even in Maine, Maine's super similar to it as well, and
Yeah.
that was definitely something I had to get used to. I was like, if there were no other cars around, I still had to make sure there wasn't something like darting across the road that could like total my car.
Yeah, because you just never know. And living in so many different places and, being able to explore, it's like, oh, the world is not the same as it is in one place.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening, and it was honestly nice to have everyone that we met in the beginning, like people from his company and their wives, and just like friends that we met in like our first couple months there seriously helped us out the most, especially because we got there in August, so it was practically winter there when
Yeah.
we got there, so we had to kind of figure out what we were doing right away.
Yeah, exactly. Because even, it's November in Florida right now, and it's like still sunny and hot
Right.
outside, and, shorts and t-shirt weather. And in Alaska, in August, it's the complete opposite. There's
Yeah.
probably already snow on the ground, and it's cold and dark.
Yeah. Yeah, the darkness was hard to adjust to. And the one good, well, I guess it was kind of weird, like because of all the wildlife, they didn't have as many street lights as you would think they'd have,
Mm,
with how dark it gets.
yeah.
Because they want to make sure that it's not attracting all the wildlife to the roads. So it was pretty hard to figure out like how to drive and go around because I mean, you have like your car headlights and stuff, but it's definitely a lot different.
It is, especially because I could even imagine, driving around like my area at night. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's still so dark. And we have tons of street lights, but, it's not daylight. So it's so weird driving around. But then pitch black, darkness, and then little lights and car headlights. Yeah, you have them, but they don't do much either,
Right,
especially when
yeah.
you're looking for a deer, a dark shadow
Right.
around the edge
Yeah.
coming across.
Right. Yeah. They only go like so far ahead of you, and you just got to figure it out from there.
Yeah, but it's so nice to have, people who are there and who have been there and be like, okay, well, here's what you need to know about the area. Here's how to live in Alaska during the winter.
Yeah, that was super helpful. And then between like the community that we had through like his company and everyone else we've met on base, and then I got a job. So all the people I met that are actually like from there or lived there, like hearing everything from them as well, that helped us the most. And those were all of my like best and closest friends I have right now are still like people we either met in Alaska or like are still living up there. So it was, I don't know, it's just crazy how nice and inviting everybody was. Like no one was judgmental, which made the move a lot easier because I had no idea what I was doing or
Yeah.
what military life was like.
Right. You just get like thrown into it and it's like, okay, well, I just have to figure it out from here.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I guess we'll just see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, and like that's why I love the military community so much. Like even now that my dad's retired and we're 2 hours away from the closest base, it's like it's still the family, and no matter how close or far, like you said, have people in Alaska still, like people all over the place. Just they never leave. Once you have them, you're stuck with them for life.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think is pretty cool. Like we have so many friends like all over the country now. And like if we're like most of the place we're like, oh, we could visit here and see this person and visit here and see this person. And it's just so cool how like I went from just being in Florida, not knowing anyone, to going and be like, oh, like I know people that live in all these other places, and they're just like the most genuine and nicest people. And then like watching them on Facebook and like their lives after we move away from each other, it's just so cool.
Yeah, no, that's the best part, especially like you said, traveling. Like you always have a place to stay when you
Yeah.
go somewhere because, it's literally having family all around the world.
Right. Yeah. And I love that. A couple years ago, well, a little while ago, we actually had a delay when we were coming back down here to visit, and we got stuck in Texas for a while, about a day. But the delay kept going. We had to wait till like the next morning for the next flight. And my husband actually had a friend that lived in that same city at the time. And so we got to just stay at their house for the night and like hang out with him and his wife. And it was just the coolest thing. It turned like a really bad delay into like the best experience ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like my dad and I just flew back from Maine and we flew with a veteran airlift, so it was like just private flights. And so they couldn't get us they got us to North Carolina and then they couldn't get us a flight until the next day. So we did like the same thing. We called a friend who lived close to the airport about an hour away and we were like, can we come stay with you? Like we want to see you. Like we haven't seen you in years and this is not, we want to have like an intentional trip to see you, but you have people all over the place that you can be like, oh, hey, I'm stuck at the
Yeah.
airport. Like,
Right. Yeah, and like it is nice having like the intentional like meetups with everybody.
Yes.
But like I think the like having a delay and be like, hey, can I come like see you for the night and hang out and stay over? I think that's just as fun too, because
Right.
you're planning it, but it's like a little like side trip.
Yeah, exactly. Those spontaneous visits, like, really
Mhm.
are the best. And those
Yeah.
people, they don't care because they know you're trying to get home to see your family and they would be trying to do the same exact thing. So they're like, hey, just yeah, come on.
Yeah, which I think is so cool. And that's why, like I say, everyone I meet, like all the friends we made, they're just so genuine. I feel like any single one of them, we could have that situation and ask, and they would be like, yeah, sure, like whenever you need to, come on over. And we
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, that's the best because we all are so understanding because you never know what the military is gonna, give you to deal with. Like you don't know what set of cards you're gonna get dealt. And, we all have been through some crazy situations and, even if it's just getting a delayed, to the next day. And, it's just something that we are all understanding and, being flexible with is, the name of the game. And so when something happens to someone, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I can step in. And, there are still people to this day where, if something were to happen, I could call them and at the drop of a dime, they'd be here to be, in support of any way they need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that does come with the whole military life and community. People do understand that. And I think that's what's so cool about it is that even if anyone has like all their different situations, it's still under the same idea that like you have to adjust or things happen and it could be like very last second. And that's why I think everyone understands and they're always there for each other. So it's such a great community to be a part of.
Yeah, because even after that lifestyle, you don't lose it. And just having one set of friends is huge because then I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday and it was like the connections you have are more valuable than anything else. And if you need something, like you more than likely know somebody who can help you.
That is very true. Yeah, like you always meet someone who can help you in whichever situation you're in. And it's cool to have the different types of friendships that you meet there because they're all genuine, but there's always like one person you go to for one thing and like another you'll go to for something completely different. So to have that is just I think that's invaluable.
Yeah. And especially, if somebody, if you move to a spot and you're like, okay, well, I need, X, Y, and Z, or I need help with this. And, nobody knows how to help you with that, but somebody knows somebody who can help
Right.
you. Like, it's literally this little bubble that we're all living in.
Yeah, which I think is crazy, but it's awesome. And like just like when we lived on the base too, like it did seem, I don't know, you said like living in a bubble, and like that's what
Yeah.
made me think of when we moved there. It almost seemed like we were living in a bubble, but not, just because you have everything you need on the army base, and like you could obviously can go out and explore things, but you don't need to if you don't have to. So it's
Yeah.
just nice to have literally everything right there, and then all your friends live so close nearby. It's such a cool thing.
I loved living on base and, having both lived off base and on base, like I would give everything to live on base again. That was the best experience ever because you're right. Everything is right there. You have the PX, the commissary, you have, gas stations, literally anything you needed right there. And then everyone around you, it's living the same lifestyle that you are. So it's like, it's invaluable to, have those amenities.
Yeah, it was really helpful to have them, especially if it was like cold or snowy or like I don't know. It was really cool to see it because I before we moved there, I've only been on a base one time, and that was to get my like military spouse ID right before we moved. So
Yeah,
there and living on the base and seeing like that it literally has everything you need. It was just interesting to see. And then we were still up in Alaska during COVID, so they were talking about like even closing the base down when it like COVID was starting to get really bad. And to know that we have literally everything we need right there was good too. It made me feel a lot better.
exactly. Because I'm sure, depending on where you live in Alaska, I'm sure it's different. But, you typically have to drive, quite a way to go to, Target or grocery store. Grocery shopping or, those simple amenities. But living on base, it's like all right there. So you don't have to worry about driving, an hour to the closest store.
Right. Yeah. You just have to go like up the road and like there's a PX or the commissary. And then you're like, okay, yeah, this is really technically all I need if I didn't want to go anywhere else. We
Right.
did get lucky. There was a Target like right outside one of the base exits. But there weren't like as many normal stores as I would like. There's a lot in Anchorage compared to like some of the other areas,
Yeah.
but Target was right there. And then they had a Sam's Club, but it actually closed down. So the fact that there were a couple of stores was nice, and most of them were right outside one of the exits. So I was like, it was perfect timing and location.
Yeah, because sometimes they literally just drop bases in the middle of nowhere and it's like, they have to start building up the area. And like my dad getting stationed in Kentucky when I was like an infant, it was like there's nothing here. Like, there's nothing. It was a, celebration when I think it was Walmart was built and, the first fast food restaurants, that were coming in. It was like a celebration of that.
Yeah, I think I could see that, especially because I've heard like my husband talk about some of them where like they'll go somewhere and there's like nothing anywhere around them. And
Yeah.
like even to order someone to deliver fast food to them could take like 45 minutes for the delivery driver to just make the drive themselves. So it's cool to know that there's some locations that they have it, but at least everything's on base.
Yeah. Even like you have the staples of like Popeyes is typically on base or, you at least have a little food area.
Yeah, like a little like food court like
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were pretty cool to see too in there. I didn't realize they would have that. So, and it was exciting when they always added something new to it because if you go so often, eventually like having something new was nice.
Yeah, change it up. And like they just changed up McDill not too long ago. And like even though we didn't go to McDill often, you know, they still have their staples like Charlie's is still there. That's typically everywhere in Subway. But then they have like a tropical smoothie and they have like a chicken tender place that's really good. So it is very exciting to see.
Yeah.
Even if you don't live on that base, it's still like, very exciting to see the changes and, updates and having a Starbucks on base is great now.
Yeah.
I can walk into the PX,
Yes.
get Starbucks first, and then go shopping around.
Yeah, I think it's great that they added those. Like we went to Charlie's a lot, and
Yeah.
then like the Starbucks was nice to have there. They had a GameStop in ours too, and like
Oh,
my
yeah.
obsessed with that.
Yeah, it's those little things that it's like, oh, this is a little taste of home in, the
Yeah.
middle of Alaska.
Right. Yeah, that helped a ton because a lot of things, a lot of places online wouldn't even like ship to
Oh
Alaska.
my gosh.
So yeah, so it was really nice when there was like little bits of things I was familiar with that were there. It definitely helped adjust a little bit.
Yeah, because
I
there's no
never,
beach there.
yeah, there's no beach, like there's lakes, but it's not like really the same.
Yeah,
It like I mean you
exactly.
can't like go tan or go hang out at the it was a
Yeah.
lot different.
Yeah. I like the lake life more, but being used to the beach for so long, like I'm sure somebody would start to miss it a lot.
I started missing it a little bit and like there was definitely times when I missed it for sure. I mean, it was my first time like ever moving away from family and moving out of like the city I grew up in pretty much. But I don't know, it was pretty nice to explore other things and to know that there was a few things I could relate to or like still go to like Starbucks or like the
Yeah.
Target right there. But then still know that I'm like out there and exploring. And once I finally figured out like what we like doing and we started going out and doing those things more and like we had like our friends to go out with, it made it a lot easier for us to adjust because we were there for 4 years. So I guess it wasn't a terribly long time. But it was still a good enough time for us to like adjust and actually go out and do something while we were there.
Yeah, that's awesome because some places you only get to go to for 2 years and or
Mhm.
sometimes even less. And so
Yeah.
it's like you get there and you're trying to figure it out and then it's like, scoop you up and move you to the next spot. And
Yeah.
especially Alaska, like it's fun to go and explore. We did a cruise, an Alaskan cruise
Yeah.
like a decade ago, but still like, it was just so gorgeous and there's still so much that I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back and do more. I want to hike more.
Yeah, there was plenty of that.
Yeah,
But it is really cool. I think it's a great place to visit and like at least explore it for a little while or visit a couple times. I feel like we got to do so much of the stuff that we wanted to do when we were there. And a lot of our friends and people told us when we first got there that like everyone that leaves will want to come back. And a lot of our friends did go back up there and like
yeah,
some got out and then stayed up there. And it's just such a completely different lifestyle that I think people like end up falling in love with it, whether it's like the hunting, the fishing, or the hiking. But it's a completely different lifestyle. It's cool.
yeah. That's the fun thing though, is like you're able to go to these places and going into it, like you're not going to permanently live, unless you get out and stay,
Right.
there's that option. But, for the most part, like you're going to just end up moving in a couple of years. And
Right.
so it's fun that you're going into it with that mindset. And so it's like, all right, let's make the most of every second we can while we're here before we do end up moving again.
Right. Yeah, that definitely helps you get out and want to learn and try things in the area. I know some bases and when they do literally put them in the middle of nowhere, there it's kind of hard to do that right away. And like it took us a while to like actually get out and figure out what we were doing there, but I thought it was pretty nice though.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's fun to just be able to experience the different cultures of, even the United States because it's so different everywhere you go. And, the North versus the South versus the East and the West and Midwest, everything. Like it's so unique to each area that you're in. Even, driving around Florida, like South Florida, North Florida, it's so different, So being able to just experience the different cultures within even our borders is still so incredible.
Yeah, and I would have never experienced it like I said before. So I'm extremely glad that I had that opportunity to do that. So it was almost like a blessing in disguise because when we talked about it, he had all these options to go to like Germany, Hawaii, Italy.
Oh,
And like
yes.
I still really would have liked to go to like Germany or Italy. So many of our friends went, and I was like, it just makes me want to go more now.
Yeah.
but it was a place I would have never ever wanted to go to, and I'm just super super glad that we did go, and it turned into this like lifetime opportunity, and it was really fun. And like you were saying, we were only there for 4 years, which was a long time, but it like I knew we were leaving eventually, and then
Yeah.
by the time he got out of Alaska and we went to North Carolina, then like it was nice to try to like push all the last things we wanted to do in before we moved. And now it was just a great opportunity for us to have done.
Yeah, because you don't, I mean, you can go back and visit, but you don't, you're not going to live there, necessarily again. And
Yeah.
so being able to just, go home every night after a hike or after doing an activity is so nice it's comforting. You don't have
Yeah.
to go back to a hotel or, while it's fun to stay with friends, you don't have to worry about going back to stay with friends and you can just go home.
Right. Yeah, which was really nice. And it does feel good to like go home into your own bed like after a
Yes.
really long hike. You don't realize how tired you get sometimes from them until you're
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling.
Yeah. But now I'm sure there's at some point you'll still have friends in Germany and Italy that you can just go visit them now too.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, but if anyone goes over there, I'm like, if I could just come visit, that would be great.
Yeah, start booking those plane tickets.
Yes, I would love that.
I know, because that's the whole thing. Like we didn't get stationed overseas either, and it's like we just want to go like overseas and visit. And every time we did have friends over there, we didn't make it over there because we were so busy. But it's like, bucket list just stuff to do.
Definitely. And it does show me like once you see some of them like over there, like on Facebook or on social media, seeing all the places they go to, I'm like, cool, now if I ever go over there or if like anyone's
Yes.
over there and I visit, I'm gonna go here, here, and here.
Right, because you don't just researching and you get all these tourist destinations, but then like they're over there living like the locals and able to find all these hidden spots or they're really good restaurants or little coffee shops and it's really fun to be able to kind of take a trip off the beaten path of okay, well these are all the tourist destinations that we need to hit.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really cool to have like the like an insight to something, yeah, that's not as touristy, so you could do a little bit of both and seeing everything that's over there. Like I had a friend that was in Japan and I had no idea it looked the way it did, I guess. When I saw her pictures, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not that. It looked so, so beautiful. Like the beaches were so beautiful. And I was
Yeah.
like, I never wanted to go like to that place before because I've never heard of it. But I was like, it's just so beautiful. I definitely want to go there at some point in my life now.
Yeah, exactly. You start building up a bucket list because of just where everyone else has lived and you get to see their lives through Facebook and Instagram and it's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go now."
Yeah, it definitely like kickstarted me wanting to travel a lot more and like open my eyes to where I'd want to go. That was definitely one cool thing about it is like we didn't move around too much. Like my husband was at a couple places before, like a couple different bases before we got married. But afterwards we were just in Alaska and then we went to North Carolina, but he was doing recruiting then. So we were like kind of transitioning out.
Yeah.
And I just all the other options. I just think it's so cool to like have the idea that every couple years you live somewhere else and you can experience something that's
Yeah.
completely different.
Exactly. And it's not like you're, like I said earlier, it's not like you're settling down anywhere, and you can, it opens your eyes to the rest of the world. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I want to, move somewhere else and maybe I want to live my life somewhere else and settle down somewhere else because there's so much more outside of this one, little bubble where I grew up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was very thankful that I got out of like the little bubble. I mean, granted, in a little bubble, but it was really nice to see like other areas and areas I would have never gone to if it weren't for that opportunity. And to be able to do it together as like a married couple was really nice too, because we just like we got married and then he pretty much had his new orders to go there. So we moved shortly after. So to go there as like a newly married couple and like we just had one dog with us, so no kids, but it was
Yeah.
still a cool experience to go there and experience it together, figure out what we were doing and living on base. So like the entire thing was brand new. But to have someone with me the entire time and to work it out with me and figure out what worked for both of us was also very eye-opening. It was a great experience too.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, starting your lives out as a married couple, like,
Mhm.
being thrown into a new place that, never been to before and, figuring out life in a new spot. It's huge.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of changes all at once. But it was really nice. And I think it worked out almost even better that we moved and had to kind of like figure everything out. 'Cause it was new to both of us. It wasn't like
Right.
he lived there before and I just kind of joined. The fact that it was new to both of us, I think helped a ton. Because we were just like both figuring everything out.
Yeah, exactly. And, it seems scary from the outside perspective of like, oh, I'm just getting thrown into like some crazy new life. But like once you get into it, it's like, oh, this is such a perk of the lifestyle. Like, and being able to just do new things, explore new adventures, and it's the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a whole new situation, very eye-opening, and I don't know. I think just for both of us, it was nice that we were doing it together because I don't think either of us expected like because he was in other locations, but none of them were as drastically different as Alaska. Like
Yeah.
he was in like North Carolina, Georgia, like places like that. Like they're still similar enough. It wasn't that bad, but to go all the way over there, we both like didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's one more thing that I wanted to ask you, and some people say it's the hardest thing, but what advice would you give to another military spouse?
I would say the best advice that I learned in our like short time there was definitely reach out and take advantage of the community that you have there. So other like military spouses, or even like if your husband has friends or your spouse that's in the military has friends, like reach out to their spouses and kind of grow on those interactions and building those up. Because I think in the beginning and even whenever he was gone, those were the most supportive and helpful people, and that helped me more than anything. And I have a very like I can do it on my own mentality, but even with that, it like they helped so much more and helped me see things that I would have never thought of. I would have just probably like sat in a room and then just like nothing else. So I think reaching out to other people and getting the support from the actual community and everyone that's also part of that lifestyle, I think that's definitely the most helpful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And, building that community and being intentional with just building that community once you get to a new spot is the best thing you could do for your family.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a huge difference and it helps you adjust a lot easier. I mean, I feel like it's going to be hard regardless, jumping and moving your like whole life up to somewhere new, but it made such a big difference to me and it helped open my eyes up to like other activities in that area that I don't think I would have ever like done or at least not figured out like right away. So to see that and then find people that have like similar interests of me just made a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Marina, for being on the podcast and sharing what it was like, living in Alaska and being a military spouse.
Yeah, thank you so much. I seriously appreciate you having me on. It was great experience, like sharing my experience with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, GoAMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie, that's GRACIE, @GOAMCL.org with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.